Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on, well, a glittering global treasure hunt. We're delving deep into the surprisingly vibrant world of the vintage ring market, our compass for this journey. It's a really comprehensive report from Cognitive Market Research, and our mission is pretty clear. Chart the market's evolution, pinpoint its exact standing right now, here in 2025, and then project its growth trajectory all the way out to 2033. We'll be exploring how different regions, different countries are contributing to this sparkling sector. So get ready. We're going to uncover some unexpected insights into a market that's, frankly, far more dynamic than you might imagine. Let's unpack this fascinating blend of timeless elegance and actually significant economic growth.
Indeed. And this report, it isn't just a collection of figures, is it? It offers a panoramic view. It gives us that valuable why behind the what. It helps us understand the intricate dance between, evolving consumer demand and the enduring appeal of these heritage pieces, really mapping out the market dynamics driving this global phenomenon.
Absolutely. Let's start with that grand view, right? A global snapshot of this market's impressive sparkle. Because when we hear vintage, maybe we instinctively think niche, something small, specialized. But the numbers, they tell a very different, much larger story. The global vintage ring market generated over $2 billion in revenue back in 2021, 2,216.62 million to be precise. Now, fast forward to our current year, 2025, that figure. It's already seen a substantial jump. We're talking over $2.8 billion. But the real headline here, I think, is the future. By 2033, projections show this market reaching a staggering $4.56 billion. That's expanding at a healthy compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of 6.2%. Now, a CAGR of 6.2% over, a decade? That isn't just good. It signals robust, sustained interest. This isn't some fleeting trend or a volatile spike.
Right. And what's truly compelling about this consistent global growth, as the report really highlights, is its foundation. It's fundamentally fueled by a rising consumer appreciation for, timeless and elegant jewelry. And this isn't just about aesthetics, is it? It speaks to a broader cultural shift. People are increasingly seeking enduring value, exceptional craftsmanship, and pieces that carry a distinct narrative, a history. Rather than merely being new, they're investing in a story, essentially.
That's such a crucial point. It's a shift from purely transactional buying to something, more meaningful. Okay, let's now zoom in, because here's where it gets really interesting as we look at who's leading this charge and where the most surprising growth is popping up. First up, the undeniable powerhouse, Asia Pacific. This region truly dominates the global vintage ring landscape. It was already approaching $1 billion back in 2021, hitting $999.695 million. By this year, 2025, it's climbed to over $1.26 billion. And looking ahead to 2033, it's projected to reach an incredible $2.016 billion. And it's maintaining a strong average annual growth rate, that CAGR, of just over 6%. That's a massive slice of the global market.
Yeah, it really is. And within Asia Pacific, China is maybe predictably a colossal leader. Its market share alone is projected to more than double. We're looking at roughly $400 million in 2021, swelling to over $824 million by 2033. And it's sustaining a strong 6.261% CAGR. The surge seems driven by a rapidly expanding affluent class, one with a deep-seated cultural appreciation for gold for investment-grade jewelry. Combined with a growing interest in unique heritage pieces as, status symbols, it's that blend of traditional values and modern consumption habits creating fertile ground.
But, what genuinely jumps off the page for me within this region is India. The report calls it one of the fastest growing countries globally. What are the unique factors positioning India as such a rapid accelerator here?
That's a really astute observation. India's market is projected to leap from $131 million in 2021 to nearly $300 million by 2033. And that's boasting an exceptionally high COG of 7.019%. The report points to several unique drivers. First, jewelry, particularly gold, holds just immense cultural and emotional significance in India, right? Especially for weddings, festivals. It's an essential part of personal familial wealth. Second, you have a burgeoning young, digitally savvy population discovering vintage pieces through online platforms. They're blending that traditional reverence for heirlooms with a modern desire for individuality, maybe sustainability too. That convergence is creating some powerful momentum.
Okay, now, if you're thinking about the fastest growing region overall for vintage rings, well, you might be genuinely surprised by this next revelation. Prepare for an unexpected champion, Africa. I mean, this defies a lot of conventional market expectations, perhaps, but the numbers are just undeniable. Africa is showing a truly sharp, accelerating rise. It moved from $144 million in 2021 to over $215 million now in 2025, and then it's projected to soar to over $402 million by 2033. This translates to the strongest overall CGR of any region we're looking at, a remarkable 8.12%.
It is remarkable. And what's truly insightful here is the nuance behind Africa's momentum. The report highlights how a burgeoning middle class, especially in economic powerhouses like Nigeria and South Africa, is increasingly investing in aspirational, unique pieces. Nigeria, for instance. Its market is set to nearly triple, from about $66 million in 2021 to over $183 million by 2033. That's an 8.032% CAGR. South Africa shows similarly robust growth. But it's not just about rising wealth. It seems to be about a cultural reconnection to artisanal craftsmanship, a desire for individuality. And this is often amplified by growing digital marketplaces that make these vintage pieces accessible in whole new ways. The report even points to a preference for maybe gold-heavy vintage designs that resonate with traditional African jewelry aesthetics, so it's blending heritage with modern buying power. The fact that the rest of Africa category shows the highest growth rate in the region, 8.767%. That indicates a broad-based, decentralized surge. It's tapping into diverse local markets, maybe despite some logistical hurdles.
That's a fascinating look at how cultural resonance meets economic growth. Okay, from Africa's swiftly accelerating markets, our journey now takes us to the Middle East, a region where, ancient traditions meet modern affluence. This creates another truly dynamic landscape for vintage rings. What's the story emerging from this particular cultural crossroads? Well, the Middle East vintage ring market, valued at nearly $150 million in 2021, is projected to climb to over $194 million in 2025, then reaching almost $328 million by 2033. And this is underpinned by a strong average annual growth rate, 6.774%.
And we see particularly high momentum here. The UAE, for example, boasts the highest growth rate in the region. That's a 7.448% CAGR. It jumps from just over $22 million in 2021 to projected over $53 million by 2033. Saudi Arabia also holds a strong lead, a 7.065% CAGR, projecting growth from $52 million in 21 to over $120 million by 33. The report attributes this to a combination of factors: high disposable income, sure, but also a strong cultural tradition of valuing gold and elaborate jewelry, both as adornment and investment. And then there's a growing trend among younger generations seeking out unique, story-filled pieces that blend heritage with contemporary fashion. So the market benefits from both traditional demand and new luxury consumer preferences.
Okay, moving from those rapid accelerators, let's now look at regions showing perhaps more steady but still significant gains, really solidifying the global presence of vintage rings. First, North America, a consistent and substantial contributor to this market. North America's journey here saw revenues over $421 million in 2021, growing to over $525 million in 2025, and is projected to reach more than $831 million by 2033, maintaining a solid average annual growth rate of nearly 6%, 5.892% to be exact.
Right. And within North America, the United States naturally commands the majority share. Its market is projected to grow from around $318 million in 2021 to over $606 million by 2033. Its CAGR is solid, 5.737%. But what's interesting, as you noted, is Canada. It actually shows a slightly higher CAGR, 6.879%, expanding its market from about $63.5 million to $140 million over that same period. The report suggests this difference might reflect maybe a more pronounced trend in Canada towards conscious consumption, perhaps a preference for unique, ethically sourced vintage pieces, possibly influenced by a strong online community and that desire for individuality even within a mature market.
Interesting nuance there. Okay, across the Atlantic now. Europe presents a fascinating, diverse landscape of growth. The region collectively generated over $356 million in 2021, growing to over $445 million this year, 2025, and further expanding to more than $710 million by 2033. That comes with a respectable average annual growth rate of 6.022%.
Yeah, and here, the United Kingdom really stands out. It has a robust 7.1% CAGR, projected to grow from about $55.6 million in 2021 to over $127 million by 2033. This reflects, an established appreciation for antique and vintage jewelry there. However, if we connect this to the broader picture, it's really worth noting that the rest of your category, it actually shows the highest CAGR in the entire region, an impressive 9.212%.
Wow, over 9%.
Exactly. It leaps from about $29.3 million in 2021 to almost $74 million by 2033. This suggests some really dynamic, emerging, smaller markets within Europe, perhaps in countries like Poland or Sweden, maybe Portugal, areas that are rapidly embracing vintage rings.
So what could be driving that in those specific areas?
Well, these areas might be experiencing faster uptake due to increasing online accessibility, perhaps, a growing interest in sustainable luxury, or maybe just a generational shift towards unique, non-mainstream items. Though the report does acknowledge that this kind of fragmented growth can present challenges, for sourcing, for authentication. It requires sophisticated supply chain solutions.
That's a keen insight. Growth isn't always uniform, even within established continents. Okay, finally, let's round out our global tour in South America. Here we see clear leadership, but also some distinct areas of, well, slower growth. The market there grows from $146 million in 2021 to almost $179 million in 2025. And it's projected to reach over $273 million by 2033, with an average annual growth rate of 5.467%.
And Brazil clearly leads the region. It has a 5.771% CAGR, projected to move from $67.5 million in 21 to over $131 million by 33. Its large economy, growing middle class, those are key drivers. But this raises an important question, one the report does delve into. Why do we see some areas, specifically the rest of South America, experiencing significantly slower growth? It has the lowest CAGR in the region, just 2.813%.
That is quite low compared to others.
It really is. The report suggests it could be a mix of factors. Economic instability in certain countries, perhaps, different cultural preferences that might lean more towards new, contemporary designs, or maybe even less developed online infrastructure for accessing these vintage marketplaces. It really invites us to ponder the unique nuances of market segmentation, consumer preferences, even within a single continent.
So we've crunched the numbers, toured the globe. What does this all mean for you? Whether you're a savvy consumer, just a curious observer, or someone eyeing market trends, this isn't just a collection of data points. It really paints a vivid, compelling picture of a thriving global market.
Absolutely. To synthesize it all, the vintage ring market is undeniably on a promising growth trajectory worldwide. As the report summary clearly articulates, we're seeing robust performances across Asia-Pacific, Africa, the Middle East, alongside steady, significant gains in Europe and the Americas. And the common thread, the core driver we've seen again and again. It's that profound, rising consumer appreciation for craftsmanship, for heritage, for timeless style. People are looking for pieces that really transcend fleeting trends.
Yeah, it's like people are searching for pieces steeped in history and character, pieces that tell a story, right? Rather than just flashy ornamentation, there's a distinct narrative to a vintage ring, a legacy that mass-produced items often lack. It speaks to a desire for authenticity, I think.
Exactly. And this isn't merely about buying old jewelry. It reflects a deeper global shift in consumer values. People are increasingly prioritizing durability, uniqueness, a tangible connection to history, to artistry. They're making conscious choices for items that hold both personal and often investment value. This really positions vintage rings as a valuable and increasingly vibrant segment within the global jewelry industry. It's a true intersection of culture, sustainability, and commerce.
What an incredible deep dive. We've uncovered the impressive overall global growth, the strong dominance of Asia-Pacific, the truly surprising and powerful acceleration happening in Africa, and those nuanced dynamic trends across every continent. It all points back to this undeniable growing appreciation for the stories, the craftsmanship, the lasting value that vintage rings embody.
Indeed. So given these global trends, the next time you encounter a piece of vintage jewelry, maybe consider not just its aesthetic beauty, but the dynamic global market it represents and the rich stories it carries forward. What truly stands out to you in this fascinating blend of tradition and economic growth? What does this tell us about evolving consumer values, really, worldwide?
Precisely. Keep an eye on these fascinating trends, and perhaps even ponder what other vintage or heritage markets might be poised for similar growth, as people increasingly seek lasting value, authenticity, and that connection to history in their purchases. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive.